In this video, we'll show you how to replace the door handle latch cable on your Ford Edge. This is located in the front door. Let's get started. Looking at the inside of the door, right towards the front of the window, we have a small plastic panel here. I'm just going to use a plastic trim tool. If you don't have one of these, you can certainly use a flathead screwdriver. You can wrap a rag around it to keep from damaging the plastics. We'll just pop that off and set it off to the side. Looking right behind the door handle, we have another plastic panel here. We can do the same thing with that. Right behind there, we have a 10mm bolt. Next, using my trim tool, we're going to work up this piece of trim here for the window switches. I'm going to work along the edge. On the bottom of the window switches, we have a white connector with a tab here. Press in on the tab. You can pull out on the connector. Always check terminals for damage and corrosion. We have another 10mm bolt behind there. Down at the bottom of the door panel, we have two 7mm bolts we can remove. Now we can pull out on the door panel starting down at the bottom. Now I'm going to use a trim tool behind the door panel here. You can certainly use a flathead screwdriver for this. Now we can pick up on the door panel. Looking at the latch cable, we have a small tab on the back side. You can push towards the back and then pull towards the door, release that. We can disconnect the electrical connectors by pressing on the tab on the back side. Always check the terminals for any damage or corrosion. And we can remove the door panel. We can peel the protective seal on the inside of the door off. If any of the sealant stays on the door, you want to peel that off and get it back on to the protection itself. Best to pull this off in quick motions. You can press in on the tab for the speaker connector and unplug the speaker. And then we have three 7mm bolts to go ahead and remove the speaker. And we can remove the speaker. There are clips on the back side, and you have to pop those out. We can peel back the uppermost black square, revealing a 10mm. We have two T25 Torx bits. Looking towards the outer edge of the door, we have three T30 Torx bit screws. Now we need to roll the window up. To do that, I'm just going to plug the switches back in. You can press the engine start button without putting your foot on the brake. That'll turn the car partially on and we can roll up the window. You can go ahead and press the engine start stop button again to shut off the car. We'll unplug the switches. We'll set that back off to the side. Now looking up into the door, we have a couple of tabs that we need to slide towards the front of the door. I'm going to use a pick and pull down on this tab right here. Then we can take the whole assembly and slide it towards the front of the door. Once you get that forward, you can pull down, and that'll give us some wiggle room to get to the end of our cable. Looking up at our latch, just past the electrical connector, we have a red tab here. You can press on the red tab. And then push on the cable. At the end of the cable is a small metal piece. We need to turn that 90 degrees and then we can remove it from the latch. We're just going to take the hook, turn it 90 degrees, and pull it out. You can start to pull out on the grommet. Once you have that, we'll feed the cable out. And you can remove the latch cable. We can install the cable into the door. And you can work the grommet in from one end and then work around the edge. Make sure that's nice and flat. You can pull the white tab off the back of this part. That'll make it a little bit easier to get this into the latch. Get the white tab back on. And then we can get the red tab lined up in the latch. Line up the two black tabs with the openings on the white part of the latch. We'll push up and slide towards the outside of the door. As you bring it down, you're going to make sure that each of these white tabs lines up into its home on the regulator. Make sure each one is locked in. We can get the 3 Torx bits into the outer portion of the door. We can get the 2 Torx bits on the inside of the door. We can get the speaker in place. Get a couple of the screws in just to hold it. and we can snug them down. Get the electrical connector plugged in. Make sure that's fully seated, not going to pull back out. Now I'm going to plug the window switches back in, and we'll just test the windows function before we get the door panel installed. And line up the door's protective seal. You just want to press around the edges and make sure that gets back sealed. Looking at the back side of the panel, we can go ahead and get all the electrical connectors back together. Make sure that they're fully seated, not going to pull back out. You're going to get the connector for your window switches into the opening. And get our door latch cable on, make sure that's locked down. You can hook the top of the door panel on the door. Now you can start to push in the clips all around the edge of the door. Make sure that the panel is fully flat to the door all the way around. And start to get the hardware back into the door panel. And we can get the window switches plugged in, tuck the wiring harness down in. Start to press in on the switches, make sure they're all fully seated. And get the door panel that goes behind the handle in. Press down on each of the tabs in the front. And get the two screws down at the bottom of the panel in. We can get the trim piece that goes behind the mirror installed. We'll slide it down and press in on each of the tabs. Test out the functionality of your interior door panel. Make sure that all of your seat positions work, your lock and unlock button. Make sure that the mirrors move in all directions and that all of your window switches are working. Lastly, make sure that the door will open and latch with the door handle. And thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.